The news broke fast. The African Democratic Congress, ADC, was calm yesterday. Today, everything changed. And it did not change slowly. It changed like a door that someone kicked open in the middle of the night. No warning. No warm-up. No quiet steps. Just impact. For months, people inside ADC had talked about zoning. They talked behind closed doors. They talked in quiet meetings. They talked in hushed voices after long gatherings. But no decision came. Everybody waited. Everybody watched. Everybody hoped someone else would make the first bold move. The big question was simple but heavy. Who should carry the presidential ticket in 2027? Some said the North wanted another chance. Some said the South must finish its remaining 4 years. Some said the party should throw the ticket open. Everybody had an opinion, but nobody wanted to take the first step. Nobody wanted to start a fire they could not control. Then everything turned in one day. Out of nowhere, two political giants walked into the conversation with strong force. Rotimi Amaechi,
Nasir El-Rufai.
Two men from different backgrounds. Two men with different histories. Two men who rarely agree on national issues at the same time. But on this one problem, they stood side by side. Both men came out and said the same thing without fear, without delay, and without confusion. The ADC presidential ticket must go to the South. Their statement shocked the political space. Not because zoning was new. Not because people had not heard it before. But because of who said it, how they said it, and when they said it. El-Rufai took an even bigger step. He made it official. He joined ADC fully. He did not sneak in. He did not hide. He did not play games with the public. He moved directly and carried his influence with him. His decision sent a strong signal that zoning was no longer a small idea. It had become a serious demand. Amaechi also stood firm. He agreed that for ADC to challenge Tinubu in 2027, the party needed a southern candidate. Not halfway southern. Not by chance. Fully and deliberately southern. According to them, fairness required it. Stability required it. Strategy required it. They argued that the South still had 4 more years based on the national rotation of power. They believed the North had completed its turn. They believed the next step was clear. But the twist came even faster than their announcement. Only a few days earlier, Atiku Abubakar also joined ADC. That was when the political air changed. That was when people began to whisper. That was when tension quietly entered the room. Atiku has never been a small figure in Nigerian politics. He is experienced, influential, and determined. He does not join any party for decoration. Whenever he enters a political space, he enters with a mission. And many people believed they already knew what that mission was. He wanted to contest the presidential ticket again. The moment Atiku's name appeared on the ADC membership list, the zoning debate became a national topic. Leaders inside the party began to feel pressure. Some feared that if Atiku wanted the ticket, the North might push for control again. Others felt that his presence alone could divide the party even before the race began. Still, Amaechi and El-Rufai refused to step back. They repeated their message clearly. If ADC wants to stand a chance against Tinubu, they must field a southern candidate. Not the North. Not now. Their argument was not only about fairness. It was also strategic. They believed that if the ruling party fielded a southern candidate, and ADC picked a northern one, it would weaken the opposition's chances. They believed Nigeria needed regional balance. They believed that voters wanted consistency. They believed the next 4 years were already politically mapped out. Meanwhile, the public started discussing another name, a name that was not inside the party yet but continued to rise in every political conversation. Peter Obi. Even though Obi had not officially joined ADC, his name stood like a shadow across the entire zoning debate. Many inside the party believed that if ADC decided on a southern candidate, Obi would be the strongest and most unifying option. They believed his presence could draw support from both old and young voters. They believed he could challenge Tinubu directly. But nothing was confirmed. Nothing was official. Still, the quiet hope around his name kept growing. Now, with Amaechi taking a stand, with El-Rufai joining the party, with Atiku entering the same platform, the political ground beneath ADC became hotter and more unstable. And that was how Chapter 1 began. A quiet party suddenly thrown into national spotlight, driven by zoning, shaken by heavyweights, and pushed into a new internal battle before the real election even starts. Inside ADC, the fight did not begin with shouting. It began with quiet tension. It began with long stares across meeting tables. It began with phone calls that lasted too long, and messages that came at strange hours of the night. Everybody could feel the pressure building, even before the first official argument started. The zoning issue had now moved from a simple discussion to a full political battle. It was no longer about opinions. It was about power. It was about control. It was about the future of a party that suddenly found itself at the center of national attention. Leaders from the South stood firm. They repeated one message over and over again. The South must finish its remaining 4 years. It is not the turn of the North. To them, it was not emotional. It was not personal. It was simple logic. If the North had already completed its 8 years, then the South deserved to finish the next 4 before any new rotation could begin. Ending it halfway would only heat up the country more. It would break trust. It would turn every political agreement into a weak joke. Rotimi Amaechi kept saying it clearly. Nasir El-Rufai kept repeating it boldly. Others joined their voices. Some spoke quietly. Some spoke strongly. But their message was the same. They believed that if ADC broke the zoning rule, the party would look confused. They believed other regions would lose confidence. They believed the entire structure could collapse faster than it was built. But the challenge was not small. The challenge had a name, Atiku Abubakar. People inside the party respected Atiku. They knew he had experience. They knew he had the resources. They knew he had national influence. And because of that, some feared he would push hard against zoning. Some feared he would argue that the ticket should be open to everyone. Some feared he would use his political weight to swing delegates to his side. The moment his name entered the ADC register, the entire zoning system began to shake. Not because he had said anything publicly, but because of what he represented. Atiku never enters a political space without a purpose. And many believed that purpose was simple. He wanted to contest the 2027 ticket. This created a silent divide. Some believed Atiku would strengthen ADC. Some believed Atiku would tear it apart. Some believed he would negotiate. Some believed he would fight. Nobody knew which direction he would take, but everybody prepared for the worst-case scenario. Meanwhile, another name kept rising from the background, a name that brought hope to some and pressure to others: Peter Obi. Obi had not spoken. He had not confirmed anything. He had not declared interest. But the political atmosphere refused to ignore him. People inside ADC kept saying, if the South must produce someone strong enough to face Tinubu, the only name with wide national support is Obi. That thought made the zoning debate even more sensitive. Because the moment Obi's name entered the conversation, the entire political calculation changed. Some leaders began to think ahead. If Obi joins ADC and the ticket is zoned to the South, the party may gain more strength than expected. Others feared that Obi's possible entry might create friction between existing leaders. But they also knew one truth: ADC needed a strong figure if they hoped to challenge an incumbent president. Through all this, El-Rufai continued to build momentum inside the party. His decision to join officially created fresh energy. Some saw him as a new balancing force. Others saw him as someone who could negotiate between strong personalities. But nobody could deny that his presence added weight to the zoning argument. Amaechi also kept a steady position. He did not raise his voice. He did not insult anybody. He simply insisted that zoning was necessary for fairness, for stability, and for the credibility of the party. His quiet firmness made his message stronger. But the real conflict was now forming quietly beneath the surface. Delegates were being studied. Allies were being counted. Old relationships were being renewed. New friendships were being built. Everyone expected one of two things to happen. Either Atiku would respect the zoning decision, or he would challenge it directly and force a showdown that could split the party into pieces. The tension grew stronger because the party knew the truth. A divided ADC could not face Tinubu. A confused ADC could not win 2027. A broken ADC would not survive the next few months. So every word, every statement, every move mattered. And as the weeks passed, the zoning debate became more than a political argument. It became a test of discipline. A test of unity. A test of whether ADC could transform itself from a quiet party into a strong national force. But the decision was not yet made. The fight for the ticket was only beginning. And the tension inside the party was preparing the ground for a final showdown that would shape everything that came next. ADC now stood at a crossroads. Not a small one. Not a quiet one. A major turning point that would decide the future of the party long before the first campaign poster appeared. Long before the first rally. Long before the first official declaration. The fight was no longer about simple zoning. It had become a battle for direction. A battle for identity. A battle for survival. The party had suddenly grown louder, sharper, and more divided than at any point in its history. On one side stood the leaders who believed zoning was non-negotiable. They believed the South had earned the right to finish its remaining 4 years. They believed breaking the agreement would destroy trust. They believed the country would lose faith in yet another political party that refused to honor its own balance of power. El-Rufai stood solidly in this group. Amaechi stood solidly in this group. Many Southern Bloc leaders joined them. They argued that fairness was not a luxury. Fairness was the only thing holding Nigeria together. And if ADC wanted to present itself as a different kind of party, one that respects order and justice, then zoning must stay exactly where it was. But the other side was not weak. The other side had numbers. The other side had influence. And more importantly, the other side had a name big enough to shake the entire structure: Atiku Abubakar. Even without speaking loudly, Atiku's presence created a quiet storm. People started calculating. People started counting zones, blocks, delegates, alliances, and past promises. Some believed Atiku would step aside. Others believed he would fight. But nobody could predict the truth. Inside the party, every meeting felt heavier. Every phone call felt strategic. Every statement from any major figure was read, reread, and analyzed for hidden meaning. The race before the race was now more intense than the actual election that was coming. And in the middle of this tension stood another force, a silent one, but a powerful one. Peter Obi. Obi had not joined ADC. Obi had not declared interest. Obi had not spoken publicly about any move. Yet his name was the most repeated name inside the party's private conversations. Some said, if we want a southern candidate with national appeal, only Obi can spread across regions. Others said, if Obi enters ADC, everything changes. The race resets. Delegates rail in. Public interest rises. Even the ordinary voters outside the party kept mentioning him. And because of that, Obi became the unofficial center of a conversation he was not even part of yet. Some leaders believed Obi was the only person who could balance Amaechi and El-Rufai without conflict. Others believed Obi could bring younger voters into ADC in a way the party had never experienced. They believed he could give them oxygen. But the real question was not about Obi. The real question was about survival. Could ADC survive the internal battle? Could the party hold itself together long enough to make a decision that would not tear it apart? Could they stop personal ambition from destroying the larger vision? Because if Atiku insisted on contesting the primary, the party risked breaking into pieces. If Obi decided not to join, the zoning debate could lose its strongest justification. If the Southern Bloc split among different names, Tinubu would win by default. Everyone understood that the stakes were higher than individuals. This was now about strategy, about national structure, about winning, not just contesting. Behind all the noise, the party leaders faced one last truth. ADC could not challenge Tinubu in 2027 without unity. Not half unity. Not forced unity. Real unity. The public watched closely. Journalists kept asking quiet questions. Political analysts tried to predict what would happen, but the situation was too unpredictable. Every move from El-Rufai changed the balance. Every statement from Amaechi shaped new expectations. Every rumor about Atiku created more tension. ADC was now experiencing something it had never faced before. Real national pressure. Real national attention. Real national expectations. The party had become the platform of interest. Not because of its history. Not because of its size. But because of the heavyweights inside it and the zoning battle that carried national implications. As the internal debate reached its peak, the final question emerged, the question nobody wanted to ask, but everyone was thinking. Who will carry the ADC presidential ticket? Will it be a southern candidate like Amaechi and El-Rufai demanded? Will Atiku rise against zoning and force a contest? Will Peter Obi step in and reshape the entire party? Or will the internal fight break ADC before the real battle even begins? This was the race before the race. And it was already hotter, louder, and more unpredictable than anything that would come after it. The next decision the party makes will not just choose a candidate. It will choose the party's fate. It will choose its future. It will decide whether ADC stands strong in 2027, or collapses under the weight of ambition. And that is where the real story truly begins.